Hello, everyone, and welcome to Between a Pot and a Hard Place. I am Vengeance.
And I'm just, I guess, regular old Chris Kirkpatrick.
Well, this podcast is going to be me doing. No, I'm not. I thought about doing the
I'm like,
voice the entire show, but
you either drive us all crazy or you'd lose your voice like that.
yeah, I would. I mean, talking for an hour, going like this the entire time. Well, no. I mean, I'm challenging myself to keep the mask on the entire time because it didn't dawn on me that Halloween is tomorrow. I was like, okay, well,
It didn't dawn on you that Halloween was tomorrow. You
well, I knew
actually
it.
had this on earlier.
I mean, I knew it was, but I didn't like it. Didn't I didn't connect the dots really until earlier today, and I was like, wait a minute. I knew it was coming up, but the time goes by so quickly that I forgot that. Wow, tomorrow is literally the last day of October.
All right, gotta say, so it is hilarious for me. Like, we had not talked about this earlier. It's funny to me that you and I both ended up choosing characters that we were dressing up as, where we ended up shaving off at least half of our facial hair. You guys know that I normally have, this beautiful goatee that is usually right here covering up my weak chin. But my entire family decided to dress up as the Addams Family.
Nice.
So my youngest daughter, Amber, decided to be Pugsley. My oldest daughter was Wednesday. My wife was Morticia. And I am Gomez.
Cool.
And we attend a really cool church that actually celebrates Halloween. So we went to church dressed up as the Addams Family this morning.
That's awesome.
Yeah. The one thing that's funny for me, though, is so I ended up spray painting my hair black as well as kind of shading in my eyebrows and my mustache. What's crazy is looking like that, I actually look more like John Candy.
So, yeah. That was pretty funny. I was trying to think of some John Candy quotes, but I couldn't really think of any.
There's plenty of them. It's just funny how that is.
It's more of an SNL Super Friends meet up with Mike Ditka. Yeah. Right. The funny thing, too, is talking about painting parts of your body. I have a small amount of leftover black face paint that I played around with a couple of months ago. I was going to paint my eyes to like kind of give the full version.
Yeah.
The eye holes are very tiny on this mask. So it's pretty effective as it is, but I realized I had already showered after I shaved, so I was like, I don't want to take a second shower or like have to go through all the cleanup later. So I was like, no, I'm just going to pass on the paint. But I almost did.
I will tell you, if you think when you put makeup on or like around your eyes or whatever else, that it will just come off easily, I will tell you, you'll be scrubbing that stuff off for the rest of your life.
Well, luckily the paint that I have is like really cheap water-based paint.
Okay.
So it does come off fairly easy, but you still have to like. It would just be easier to get in the shower and just
Right.
So yeah, the downside to it being water-based is if you want to paint your face to have like a whole entire evening at a party or something, it starts to fade and crack and peel, and it's just not the best paint. The grease paint is probably the best to use for lasting effect. And I too hate shaving because I have a very like weirdly small, tiny chin that looks really strong because of the mask. Take the mask off and it's just like nothing.
Yeah, that's the way it works too, is like you don't realize how funny your chin looks until you see it without hair, and then you're like, oh, that's why I grew out the beard.
Yeah, because my beard usually sits about an inch or two from my chin.
Right.
And then I just look nothing. Like I can't even turn my head in this mask, but so I feel sympathy now for people like Michael Keaton and Christian Bale and all those guys who were like, and they have to do this, and because you literally can't turn your head.
Right.
And I realized we need to turn our coasts.
There we go. All right.
Yeah, I always forget that. But yeah, it's a fun mask.
Yeah. I mean, so are you going trick or treating tomorrow, or are you going to have? Does your neighborhood have a lot of kids that come around and ask for candy?
I'm sure they do. I don't really ever do it. I never buy any candy or anything,
Oh, you're one of
but
those houses.
I don't do it to be like, I hate kids. I don't know. It's
See,
usually,
yeah,
yeah.
I, in my house, Halloween is my wife's favorite holiday. She loves it, so our yard is all decked out in, skeletons, and we've got a graveyard in the front yard, and all that kind of stuff. Not anything, any decorations, just where we've buried our pets. But we've got it decked out for Halloween, and our neighborhood um, last year we ended up we were overrun. We had far more kids than we expected, so I ended up having to go out and buy more candy. So I'm hoping we have that happen again.
Yeah, I think mostly because my house is built like I rent this really small house, and the front of the house actually faces the back side away from the road. So there's no front door. It's just a wall
Right.
on the street. So people usually don't stop in anyway because they're like, "Where's the door?" So that works out. But and mostly I'm usually broke all the time, so I don't have. I'll buy like can I could buy candy, and I used to do it, but I don't know. Lately, I'm just. But yeah, Antonio Banderas Zorro Chin. Yeah, and I have the mustache, which I really regret keeping now because it would look a lot better without the mustache. I don't know.
Right. Well, next time you can just shave the whole thing off and start from zero.
I am Zorro.
But you would need to say it with like the Antonio Banderas accent,
Mi
right?
nombre es Zorro. Mi nombre. Sorry, I said nombro. I think I said my number is Zorro.
Right. I think I think everybody would be like, I don't know what he's speaking, but he's not speaking Spanish.
Yeah, I'll be like Peggy Hill from King of the Hill. Excuse me, por favor. Oh,
Oh, that's terrible.
there
This
is
is our
something I
very
wanted to.
yeah.
What?
Go ahead.
I was just saying there was something I wanted to kind of throw out there. I mean, we're not going to dive into it really because today we're talking mostly about Stargirl.
Right.
But and I felt weird, but I was like, oh, I'm Batman, but we're talking about Stargirl, but it's still DC, so I'm good. And if I cut the ears off, I could be the what's the girl on there?
Oh,
Wildcat or
Wildcat. Yeah.
it could be similar if it didn't have the ears. I would have or I'm Space Ghost.
I
I
think
don't
there's
know.
a lot. There's a lot of potential that you could use that mask for. Besides just, you don't have to be one character. You could be a lot of different characters.
I think it is based on the Dark Knight Christian Bale Batman. I think
Yeah.
that's what it's supposed to be. But still, it's cool. It fits my head. I have a large head though, so it's really hard to put on. The first time I went to take it off, I couldn't get it off. I was afraid it was going to rip. Like I'm just, but it's good.
I'm here. Here it is, 8 minutes and 30 seconds into our episode, and you still got it on, which is a record. Generally, you'll come in with a mask over your face, and it doesn't last more than about, I don't know, a minute or two.
Yeah, and well, I think because I realized it's Halloween, and I was like, okay, well, last year I wore the Scream mask, the ghost face mask, the entire time. So I thought,
Right.
okay, it'll be a Halloween thing. If
Yeah.
I'm wearing a mask, I'll keep it on the entire time, and it'll be fine. But it is a little weird. Luckily, I don't have to turn my head too much because I'll just end up doing this. I look silly with headphones on. It would look better without them, but then I couldn't really hear what you were saying.
Right.
So,
Right.
and they stay. I thought it would be awkward, like I would have to do. I don't know.
I will say it is more of an Adam West Batman kind of look when you have the headphones on.
Or the
Uh,
bat phones.
slightly humorous when you do it that way, but I think it works.
Yeah, it works. But yeah, the one thing I wanted to mention is I binged watched that 70s show over the course of a couple of weeks, maybe, and all 8 seasons. I just watched the finale last night, and I missed the show. And I think I've mentioned it before on here. They're doing a continuation, much
That
like
90
yeah,
show.
that 90s show, and there's still no word on when it's airing, but they have filmed all 10 episodes, from what I understand. It's gonna debut on Netflix. There's gonna be 10 episodes, which I'm kind of like, oh man, only 10. And I'm hoping it's an hour long, but knowing the format of the old show, they're probably going to stick with like the 22-minute time, which will be such a torturous thing because on that 70s show we got like 23 episodes a season. Now we're getting 10. I'm like, oh my gosh. But it is what it is. But I wanted to show a screenshot from that 90s show.
Okay.
So this is, of course, the Foremans, and they're in their house. They've got the same set rebuilt, and of course, this takes place in 1995. So, and they've obviously aged because the show went off the air in 2006. So it's been quite some time, and they're older, but it's cool because they're there and they're going to be there. The show, the premise is their granddaughter, which is the son of Donna and Eric. They eventually, I guess, got married and had a kid. And 15 years later, this kid is going to stay at her grandparents' house for the summer. And that's the whole premise of the show. And I know at least on the pilot episode, they're going to have all the original cast members back, minus Danny Masterson, who played Stephen Hyde. He's not going to be involved, obviously, with some things going on with him. But everybody else is going to be on that first episode, so I'm just super pumped about that.
That's great. That's great. I think and having been a fan of that 70s show myself, it'll be neat. And again, having grown up, during the 80s and the 90s, it'll be interesting to see the direction that show takes, whether they're going to lean heavy into the nostalgia or the music or the style, or, well, we'll see.
Yeah, I really want to see somebody like walking around with Walkmans and a Nokia phone. Well, no, a Nokia phone, 95 was still a little bit before that, I think.
I don't remember Nokia phones in 95.
Those were more like 2000, I think. I think in 95 you had those like really huge like brick cell phones.
I think the brick cell phones existed, but I didn't know anybody that had one.
Right. They were so expensive that I remember those because in Saved by the Bell, Zach Morris had one, and that was around the same time frame. I think early to mid 90s. But they were, and his family, I guess, was rich or whatever, but they were so expensive. The only people I knew that had any kind of mobile phone in that time period was, I think I had a cousin, and they had a car phone that was actually like built into the car, but they very, very rarely used it because it was like $75,000 a minute or something.
Oh, it was crazy. I think about how, nowadays we've got family that lives, across the country, and we can pick up the phone and call, and we have a long distance plan that is unlimited. But in those days, you literally paid by the second, I swear. Yeah. And my dad, if we picked up the phone and did a phone call, if it was longer than 5 minutes, he would have a conniption fit. So, yeah, we'll see where they go with it. But like, I remember I was a security guard for a number of years, and I didn't have a cell phone. I just had a pager, and that was, that was late 90s for me. But wrapping my brain around the idea that I had a pager that told me that somebody needed to get a hold of me, and I still had to go find a phone to call them back. To me, there's just something ridiculous about that. But
yeah, and you had to pay for it
so much a
month, and it's like it really didn't have any information other than a phone number. It would be different if I had this idea of a device that you could text only. It would just send text messaging. Then somebody was like, well, that's a cell phone. I'm like, yeah, but this thing wouldn't call at all. It would just be texting. And it would be kind of an obsolete thing. Not obsolete, but it would be pointless, kind of a redundant object because you would have a phone that could do that. But I don't know. Maybe for kids or something.
It's crazy. I remember being on the school bus. It might have been 8th grade in early 90s, driving or riding to school. And I remember, like, as a kid, I used to really love the Swiss Army knife, right? The knife that has like the spoon and the wine cork and all the different knives and blades and toothpicks. And, I loved those things. And I always thought, wouldn't it be cool if they would make a device where it was like a watch and a radio and a television all in one? And, not too long from then, we have exactly that. The cell phone has become our Swiss Army knife, and I think even young me would not have realized just how crazy we have access to everything on that thing.
And I think that's something too that any math teacher before about 2000 or even before 2003.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, you'll never have a calculator in your pocket at all times. Are you sure? Not to say that math is pointless, but I'm just saying, like, you will have a calculator in your pocket at all times. So
Yeah,
take that, math teacher from
I
2002.
know, I know. I'd heard that a lot. Um, so anyway, I'm looking forward
Yeah,
to it. Do you know when that show is supposed to come out?
I don't. I've been looking for it and looking for it, and it just says coming soon. And they have that one promotional picture where it was not promotional, but it was like a tease that was released to media to talk about of them, sitting in their kitchen. And the last time that I saw the two of them in a show was on The Ranch, which also is a Netflix show.
Right.
That also starred Danny Masterson and Ashton Kutcher. Um, and briefly, Wilder Valderrama was in there as like a character that they knew. So a lot of that 70 show people were on that. Um, but yeah, I'm hoping it's before the end of the year, but it might be one of those early 2023 kind of things.
All right.
But yeah,
So
I'm
tonight
looking
is
forward to
about
it.
yeah. So tonight is about Stargirl.
Yes.
I know we've had a couple of weeks since the last time that we had talked about it. Um, so interestingly enough, it's like right now the IMDb has Stargirl rated at a 7.2 out of 10, um,
That's not bad.
which I think it's a solid rating. It certainly could be stronger. It certainly um, isn't weak. Where would you rate it personally as far as a show?
I think as a show overall, it was, as far as quality and production and entertainment, everything else, it was better than Legends of Tomorrow,
Right.
better than Batwoman, better than Naomi, better than all of those shows at that time when Stargirl first came out. And I think it's kind of on par with Superman and Lois. And I don't know who knows where it's going to go, as far as the CW and that whole thing being bought out. But as far as the show itself as it is, I would say it's at least a 7.5. I would say 8.
Yeah, I think it is fair. I mean, when you realize that the show has earned um, a number of different nominations, right? Like they've been nominated for best fantasy television series,
Wow.
best performance by a younger actor in a network cable television series, which Brooke Basinger was nominated for that. She ended up winning that award, getting the
Nice.
Saturn Award um, in 2021, and Luke Wilson had gotten a nomination for Best Supporting Actor, and then it was also the Best Superhero Adaptation Television Series. So, I mean, I think that when we talk about shows, and they wouldn't be getting nominations and awards if they were, not very good.
Right.
Um, I think if I'm being honest, this season for me is probably my least favorite season of the three right now.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. It's just a little bit slower.
Right. Yeah.
The
Well,
stories are good, but it's
no,
just
I
stretched.
agree. And we were talking about how uh, they've really leaned into this idea of almost like episodes. That uh, that season two was all about summer school. This one is all about frenemies, and we've seen how we people that were against that were clearly enemies, part of the Injustice Society. They have essentially become, at least if not good guys, they're no longer villains in the
Right.
classic sense. But this whole idea of the mystery about who killed the gambler has, I think, taken up a good portion of the time as far as with the story.
Yeah, and I love the mystery aspect of it. It's something different. They weren't afraid to try,
Right.
and I think it works. But it's just there's something missing. It's not the action. I guess is what's missing. There's not enough action in terms of fighting, chasing down. You have seen very little of Stargirl. You saw
Right.
a little bit of Starman floating around, but you didn't see a lot of action. And I like the story with Rick because he took the inhibitor out of the hourglass, so now he's essentially Superman.
No, I agree. So what we're seeing with Cameron Gelman, who plays Rick Tyler and Our Man, is we've I think we've always thought that why not be able to use the powers of Our Man for more than an hour?
Yeah,
And I remember that Pat had talked a little bit about that it was wisdom on the part of Rex when he created uh, the hourglass that you know that putting the limiter on the power was a way to make sure that it would not get abused.
right.
And the idea um, that Rick ends up taking that inhibitor out, not necessarily intentionally, um, but we're seeing how 24/7 access to that power, he's already kind of abusing it. He's the control that we've seen from him in the past. He's gone, um, and I'm going to guess that is just the beginning of how he's acting. Um, it is interesting to me that when they finally go and the guy who's been watching them in Blue Valley, who's
Yeah.
behind the scenes of all of this, um, that it's when he's looking at the TV screen with Rick as Our Man, that's when he decides to punch the TV screen, and it does make you
Yeah.
wonder, so why is it that um, that's the time when who's ever watching them kind of acts out, right? Why did he pick that time? And it does make you wonder, whoever it is that's watching them, um, does he have strong feelings about Rick?
This is a good idea here. So Corey is 99% sure that Sylvester is the bad guy. He thought that at first and then didn't think it, now back thinking it. So who else could have put a camera in the basement? And that's a good point. I think it's going to be someone you don't expect. Like, I have a theory that it's actually the gambler, that he's not dead, that he staged the whole thing for whatever reason, and or maybe he didn't stage it, but he's being held. I don't know. But I had this thought that, like, what if it's him? Like, it's going to be some twist because you think it's Dragon King this whole time. It's not going to be Dragon King. It just can't be that obvious.
No, I think that all the location stuff would make us think that Dragon King is back. But again, all of those things were because of what we had seen um, with what's her name, uh, with Cindy,
Yeah,
right? That's really a lot of it is because of Cindy, kind of that slow transformation she's going through. That's made us think that the Dragon King was involved.
mm-hmm.
But I think that Sylvester is a good possibility, especially when you consider the fact that he has come back from the dead,
Yeah,
and I still feel like that's happened far too easily. Um, we should have more than just simply that his time with the cosmic staff has given him the ability to uh, die and then return.
yeah.
There's still a lot to be said about that. And if the cosmic staff can do that, it does make you wonder how it might eventually also affect um, Courtney as well.
That's true. And
But
she hasn't had it in a
yeah.
while.
So your guess though is that it is Sylvester who has been watching everybody. And again, I agree. Whoever it is would have to have been able to get access to all of these locations.
Right.
So that's certainly it. I guess my question is: did you notice the one house where there was not a camera?
I'm not sure if I don't
So
know.
out of all of the places that had cameras, right? And they had cameras in the basement, at the Dugans. They had cameras all over the school and everybody else's houses. The one place though where there wasn't a camera was at Beth's house,
That's
and
true.
I thought that was really interesting. Mind you, Beth has the goggles, and her goggles. I- Are you surprised that it wasn't until very recently that the goggles started telling her where the cameras were?
Yeah,
Um,
almost as if they waited until they had time to install them.
right. So it is interesting to me how that works. Why would they not have cameras at Beth's house? Um,
That's a good question, Robin.
I know. So I guess my thinking possibly, if we're looking at characters that we would not automatically assume would be involved in this, I think it's very possible that Beth's parents
Yeah,
are involved in this thing.
because
Um,
they are super obsessed with her, with trying to help her be a superhero.
exactly. They don't need to monitor their own house. Um,
It's
so
true.
that's an interesting part to me, that I think about, and and why they've introduced those characters a little bit and their desire to be involved,
Yeah,
and they were really put out when Beth says no. So anyway, they're on my at least on my list of suspects.
I know what's
Um,
going to happen. You help me crack the case. I know now.
okay, what are you thinking?
I think that her parents are definitely involved, but I think they're doing it under duress. I don't think they're doing it intentionally to hurt anybody. I think they're being forced by whoever it is, because you notice when you see the scenes of the monitors, it's just like big, strong, like creature things, like "Grrr." Oh man, that's not Beth's mom. So, or maybe she hadn't had her coffee yet, so she's like, "Grrr." But I think maybe like whoever it is controlling and manipulating her parents, and that's why they're obsessed with helping her, because whoever it is like get more intel on these people,
Right.
get involved. We're trying.
I think that there's a possibility that they're involved. I also think that, again, talking about we it's strange that Pat had made everybody believe that the original JSA were all dead,
Right.
and as time has gone forward, we find out that that's not the truth. Um, that they're many of them have survived, and for me, I had always wondered about, if they all died, how did all this stuff get back to their headquarters?
Yeah, really, everything.
Right,
They did Pat kill
everything.
them all?
Right, everything got put back. So there were some things. Maybe Pat has not been as transparent or as open about things as we would like him to be. Um, and if that's the case, if other characters that we had thought were dead are really alive, maybe the original Hour Man, Rick's dad, um, Rex Tyler, maybe he's still alive too, and
Maybe
that
he's
might,
behind it.
well, and again, that would explain the strength, right? Um,
Yep.
it would explain the strength. It would explain punching the TV when Rick was there. I think he would be somebody who would not be happy that Rick is messing with the hourglass.
Yeah. The thing about the hourglass too, I always wondered, is it 1 hour every 24 hours?
Right.
Because if their timer ran out, he's like, dang, couldn't he just go like and do it again for another hour? Or
Well, and see, that's the issue, is you have to be really wise when you use the hourglass. And a lot of it was part of it was down to safety, because not only does the hourglass give you that strength, but the limitation also, like the more you used it, it was almost addictive. It also,
right.
the toll that it took on your body to go and work at that level, it was dangerous.
Maybe it's
Uh,
Rick that's doing
uh,
everything.
maybe, but that would mean that he was out of control before
Sure.
he had gotten the hourglass fixed.
That is
So,
true. Hmm. Maybe it's me.
and I don't know as if Rick could also be watching himself on TV
Sure.
while he's at the same time in the school.
Multiverse. Um, doubt that, but maybe it's Thawne.
There would be a twist. Well, I mean,
That would
I
be
guess
interesting.
in a universe where they can have Jay Garrick, I guess why not?
Yeah, where's he at? Like, he's not dead. He was there, but well, he was in flashback, so I guess maybe Jay Garrick is dead. But they did say that it was the same Jay Garrick, so I guess he's on Earth Prime now, stuck on Earth Prime, and they don't know that all these other Earths exist yet. So, and they won't know because it's the end of the Flash.
I know.
Oh well.
Let's wait to talk about that until a
Yeah,
little bit later. Um, so, really, the last two episodes have really focused on Infinity Inc. That's really been kind of a large focus, and I think we had thought that this new uh, we've been reintroduced to Jade
yeah,
with the Green Lantern ring, and then her brother, who we know is Obsidian. Um, they've been separated their entire lives, and here we think that I believe it was Helix um, that they were bad guys. I mean, Mister Bones, that
yeah.
skeleton. We really had thought that maybe he was potentially the bad guy in all of this. I mean, he looks like a villain,
Yeah, he really does. He looks
but as
pretty
we,
evil.
yeah, but as we find out as the series goes through, they really were legitimately trying to help both of them.
Yeah. It's interesting. I hope they kind of get close to a payoff soon. I know it's not near the end of the season. It's like third of the way through, maybe, but at least drop something. Like
Right,
maybe go halfway, and then the rest of the half could be all action packed, or like why did you do this kind of thing.
right. I'm kind of with you on that. I really don't understand necessarily why the mystery of who killed the gambler is such a big deal. Because he was a bad guy, and while I'm all for giving bad people an opportunity to change and make better decisions, he really died before he had a chance to do that.
Yeah,
Uh, when your enemy dies, um, you don't spend a lot of time memorializing them or finding out who their killer is.
that's
Uh,
true.
Maybe that sounds a little bit cold, but that's
Yeah,
kind of where I am in the whole mix of it. Um,
I
so
mean it's a good story. I just think it's
yeah,
taking a little too long to get there.
that's where I am on this too. I will say that one of my surprising favorite characters has turned out to be Richard Swift, who is um, uh, the Shade.
Right? Yeah, the shade.
Yeah, I've really, that's played by Jonathan Cake. That is his real name, Jonathan Cake.
Cake. Ooh,
Um,
cake.
I know, yum. Uh, but no, he's great. I think that um, there's this real dry British wit about him that I really, really enjoy. So that's been kind of a neat thing. I've liked him, uh, and then kind of
Yeah.
learning to find out that Obsidian's powers are basically related to his. But they
Hmm.
both have access to darkness and shadow.
And we just saw in the last episode how they kind of got out of the Shadowland. They were all trapped there for a minute, and then they got out. I love seeing the character development of Pat's dad, and he's like, "Pat, it's not real." No, he said every word of it. That was like literally a memory, even though it
Yeah,
was Shadowland Mirage. It still actually happened. So it makes me wonder where are they going to go with that? Maybe it's Pat's dad that kills everybody.
yeah. I mean, I
That was
think
just
that
cool.
no, I thought that was there were some really, uh, Pat's visions that he saw in the Shadowlands were pretty harsh digs, but I think they were also pretty accurate. It wasn't just Sylvester and the JSA that looked down on Pat like he was useless. Even his own family
Mhm.
didn't really see him as being anything particularly special. And then the dig that was given about Pat and his relationship with Mike, I thought, ouch, that's harsh, but it's really accurate.
It's
Uh,
true.
Pat has Pat doesn't have a really good relationship with Mike.
Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. Pat isn't like his own dad. He's like, give me the wrench or whatever. Like, but
Right.
he's not actively involved in his life either.
Pat is Pat and Mike, and I kind of wondered about why there was the distance between them. Like,
Yeah,
um, I think we all know that Pat has the capacity to be a good father. He certainly isn't abusive, but I do feel like Mike, of all the characters on the show, Mike suffers from neglect, right? That
yeah, he
he
does.
he gets forgotten, and it's not just Jeff Johns who sometimes forgets to write about him on the show, but it is that maybe sometimes Pat gets so involved in taking care of Courtney and the rest of the JSA that he forgets about his own son. It's the
Yeah,
reason why I think the pen um, ultimately chose him at first to be its first user because he was genuinely lonely.
yeah, and it's kind of sad that he doesn't have it anymore. But it is interesting that he's there helping his friend to control it and to do everything.
Right.
So
I think there that in his heart, Mike really does want to be a hero.
right,
I think that he sees his father for the hero that he is. He really does look up to him. Um, Maybe he doesn't realize why his dad wants to keep his distance, or
mhm.
why his dad doesn't necessarily want to have him jump into wearing like the red and white costume. But
Yeah,
I think that Mike's desire to be a hero at some point is going to get him involved.
I think so.
Um,
I think he's going to be a villain. I'm going to scratch my head like, oh, I can't.
right.
But yeah,
I hope that Mike does not become a villain.
I think it'll be teased. I think that it'll be excuse me, temptation, and like, oh yeah, okay, I'll do it. Like Mike, no, like,
Well,
oh
I mean
no,
that was last season. You know, last season
oh yeah, that
um, when uh, when they were putting together the new ISA,
that's true.
uh, you know that um, they had teased about using Mike as a member. As we find out, they really only used him as the um, as the bait. But
Yeah,
there was a little bit where they were thinking, how are they gonna end up corrupting him and making him a member of the ISA?
luckily they didn't. I forgot about that part of it. I don't know why, but
So
I guess it slipped my mind.
here's what I'm gonna guess, and I think this is the timing of Pat going into the Shadowlands and facing his father, and then realizing that um, if he's not careful, he's going to have the same relationship with his son that he had with his dad.
Yeah,
I think he's going to use that as a wake up call. That's my guess. I think that he's going to. Sometimes in life, we need to have moments that kind of jar us, kind of back into reality, and
yeah,
we kind of look at ourselves in the mirror and go, "That's not who I want to be." I think that Pat's going to use that as a wake up call to say, "I need to step up as a dad, especially with my son." Um, I think we also gotten some more um, about uh, Pat and his wife, that she had Mike. Sounds to me like they weren't together. Like she had gotten pregnant and then they weren't together. Had
yeah.
Mike, and then um, somehow she had given Mike over to Pat or whatever. Um, it doesn't sound like a happy story either way.
It doesn't. That's That you mentioned earlier how Pat's hiding something. I think maybe some of it's tied to that.
Right.
It might not be the whole centerpiece, but I think it's tied to that in some way.
But Mike was abandoned by his mom.
Yeah,
Because isn't she still alive?
yeah. I mean, I think that we even see her. Not I think in season one maybe or two, where she worked at like Denny's or something. It was like a diner, and I forget who came to her. It was a villain. It might have been the Shade. I don't know, but it was someone that came up like, um, "Do you know
Well,
Pat?" No,
Sylvester.
it was
Oh, it was
Sylvester.
Sylvester. Yeah,
Yeah,
Sylvester was looking for Pat. Amazing
yeah,
that somehow that Sylvester could find Pat's ex-wife, but not find out where Pat was.
right.
That was interesting.
The fact that they showed her though made me go, okay, this is cool. I'm hoping they reintroduce her at some point
Right.
and kind of go deeper into this. Maybe find out that she didn't just abandon them. Maybe someone drove her away, like a villain, or I don't know. I think
Yeah,
it'd be a great story.
I think that the fact that we know how old Mike is. We know that
Yeah,
it's been 10 years, um, or thereabouts. Um, I think, like everything else, the ending of the JSA had an impact on everything,
yeah,
and no one less than Pat, who I think believed that he was the only survivor. So
yeah. It's interesting. I love the show. I don't know. I love the whole JSA stuff. You don't see that get covered a lot
no,
in
I
things.
agree. Well,
It's
we haven't heard a whole lot about it until Black Adam. Have you seen? By the way, have you seen Black Adam yet?
I haven't.
Okay, so one of the things that I'm glad you brought up, Black Adam introduces the JSA, right?
Mhm.
What's funny to me though is that this JSA, um, for Black Adam only has 4 people on it, right? That they've got, um, what, Doctor Fate, Hawkman, um, Atom Smasher, and Cyclone.
Okay.
But it is a group as varied as the Justice League itself. So anyway, we have finally seen the JSA, in the DC cinematic universe.
Well, that's
Um,
very cool. I mean, I
yeah,
kind of knew they were going with that just because I've seen the toys in the trailers, and I knew
right.
Doctor Fate was in there, and I knew Hawkman. But other than that, I didn't really know who the others were. But I love Doctor Fate as a character. I don't know why.
No,
I just do.
Doctor Fate is Doctor Fate is great. Though I will say that in a showdown between Doctor Fate and Doctor Strange, I still think Doctor Strange is better.
Hmm.
But that is my personal viewpoint on it. Well, and I'll say why. Um, if you take off Doctor Fate's helmet, right, uh, he simply returns to being just a regular human.
Yeah.
Whereas Doctor Strange has no such limitation. So I do I do find, at least in my perspective, I still think Doctor Strange is better than Doctor Fate.
What if
What?
Doctor
Yeah.
Strange put the Fate helmet on?
Well, that he would have the powers. Well, and I think that um, Nobu, the spirit of Nobu, who inhabits the helmet, he likes inhabiting people who have some level of mystic art training. Makes it
Yeah.
easier for him to join with them. I think that the helmet has bonded with people like Zatanna and Zatanna's father, both of whom were highly skilled with magic.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think that so necessarily that it would make Doctor Fate any stronger though, um, but it would just make the connection between them better.
Right.
So the other thing, the last 2 episodes in Stargirl have been related to Infinity Inc. Which
Yeah.
Infinity Inc. is not something that I'm particularly familiar with, but
Right.
if people um, had known about the JSA, the JSA Infinity Inc. was a kind of a spin-off group um, from that, made from the children of the original JSA members,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that one of the reasons why it was called Infinity Inc. We had seen a couple of characters that were there in in Helix who had been mentioned, like Penny Dreadful was mentioned.
Huh.
There were a couple of other characters in the comic books. Um, Brainwave Junior is a member
Wow.
of Infinity Inc. I think Power Girl, uh,
Okay.
Silver Scarab. There's a couple of quite a few characters that are involved in Infinity Inc. So it's very possible that they're dropping this as a possibility. Maybe they're looking for a spin-off series. I don't know, but I thought that was cool.
That is pretty cool. I'm just glad to see some, Justice Society characters on the big screen.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think DC is finally Warner Brothers DC. I don't know if it's the mergers or what, but they're finally starting to take their characters seriously and like trying to like, okay, let's mold something instead of just like throwing everything out there.
I think I really have felt like DC has been in a bit of an identity crisis
Yeah.
for quite a while, and while I think that what they've been doing with their TV shows, like with the CW and everything else, it's really been in free fall. It does seem like they're making some choices that I think in the long run could really help them out. Number one, I think that um, haven't they placed James Gunn in a um, they've like promoted him. Uh,
Yeah. I don't know the full story behind that, but I know what you're talking about. I heard a bit about it. Him and the other guy, I forget who it is.
so yeah,
Um,
so James Gunn, and if you know James Gunn, he's been really huge as far as with the Guardians of the
Garlic.
Galaxy. I know the
I love
Guardians of
the
the
garlic.
Galaxy in the MCU, but he's also really huge in regards to the Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
So
He's one of
um,
the only big directors that have not too far apart directed a big time Marvel movie and a big time DC movie.
right. So some people are really excited about the direction that he's going to take things in. Um, I know that one of the I know this is a spoiler, but it's a spoiler that everybody knows. Henry Cavill
Yeah.
um, makes an appearance as Superman at the end of Black Adam, and so Henry Cavill's re-involvement as Superman actively as a character going forward, that's really huge.
Yeah.
That's really
One of the
huge.
biggest benefits, in my opinion, is now we're not going to see the meme of Michael B. Jordan might be playing Superman because we've been seeing that meme and that ad, the headline for 20 years now.
Right,
And now that could be over.
right, right. Again, Michael B. Jordan can be anything he wants to be,
Oh,
but
sure.
I do think that having Cavill as Superman, it does allow them to tell stories instead of God starting all over again with another person playing the character. It gets really tiring. I'm like,
Yeah.
we have because we have to go. It's like all the different versions of Spider-Man where you got to go back to Peter Parker in high school all over again. I'm like, ugh. I want to finally get to stories where he's no longer tied to the high school. Well, it's the same thing. Um, so I think this will allow us to go into stories where Superman is older, he's more mature. I think it's why I like Superman and Lois with Tyler
Yeah.
Hoechlin. I think the only thing that I'm sad about is um, that Henry Cavill also plays Geralt of Rivia in The Witcher, that series
Hmm.
on Netflix.
Yeah.
If you've never watched The Witcher, it's really, really, really good. But
Yeah.
it
I've seen
stars
bits of it.
it stars Henry Cavill. I believe that he has chosen to step down from that show, so he's able to focus entirely on being Superman.
And I've actually heard too with that is there's going to be another solo Superman, which is going to be, I guess, Man of Steel 2, is what people are calling it at this point. But I think what they should do is do like a soft reboot of the film franchise, like not go back and say that this didn't happen, but just kind of start from this point and change directions. I mean, I would be fine if they just reset everything that happened. I'm still interested to see what happens with the Flash because we don't know really what's the last I heard that they're not going to have Ezra Miller back to play anything else ever again in DC, but they're going to finish this one.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, and again, Ezra Miller is like he's just like a time bomb. And while he does good with the character, his personal life I think it's really cast a big ugly shadow on the franchise.
Yeah, a little bit. That's why I kind of think they should reset it. But like, I've seen people say, well, they should just record a new ending for the Flash. That at the end credits, like everything changes and he looks different. I'm like, just do kind of like the Snyder Cut, where it's like a completely different alternate reality, but it's the same thing and the same people.
Right.
Have that be that, and then kind of go in this direction moving forward. That way you don't have to reset anything. You can recast Barry Allen later, like.
Yeah, I do feel like you've got so many people who want to restore the Snyderverse, right? That they're demanding that vision that Snyder had that story gets told. But it seems like the network and everybody else, the owners and those who are telling the story, who have the real power, that they aren't quite in line with that vision.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it. But
right, I liked it too. I mean, the problem is that there are people who they go, if Snyder's not involved, I'm not watching it.
That's
yeah, I don't know. Like I get it. It's wise to incorporate things for fans to give them buy-in. At the same time, people that believe that they're going to somehow, force them to make corporate decisions. I don't see it happening.
No, not something that big. I mean, I did like the Snyder Cut, but it is 25 hours long, but it's good. The involvement of like Darkseid and like Steppenwolf and like just the expanded stories are so much better. But
I know
I'm
gonna get myself in trouble here, but so I had felt like the original cut of the Justice League, the pacing was almost too fast. Like it moved along so quickly, and it glossed over a lot of stuff. But I thought the opposite was true for the Snyder Cut. I found it to be too long.
Yeah, I can definitely see why they did.
That for me, it had a serious pacing issue. Though I did find that there were details in there that I thought would have been really, really helpful with the original. But do I think it's the greatest thing in the world? No, I've only watched it once.
Yeah, I watched it once.
And I have no desire to go back and watch it again. So I don't quite understand the appeal for those who want to say, if I don't get Zack Snyder, I'm not watching it.
I mean, I personally did like his version better than the original cut, but again, like you said, it is a little too long, and not that it's dragging on and this is dumb and boring, but it just the average person can only sit so long. But that's why I love the way they cut it. They, when I first saw it on HBO Max, it was like 4-hour long episodes. It's kind of like a series, so that way it wasn't bad. If I had to sit in a theater for 4 straight hours, no, I wouldn't do it.
The idea that you could pause it and get a drink, or you could pause it and take a nap.
Yeah, right. So I love the way they formatted it like that. But I'm not going to say I'm not going to watch one without Zack Snyder. I don't think he's that great. I mean, he's good, but I don't think he's that great. Not too. I don't know. I always look at like watch the movie, watch the show. If you like it, awesome. If you don't, then don't spend every day bashing
Right.
the thing, or saying if it doesn't have this person, or rolling your eyes that something is made that you never intend to watch anyway. I don't know.
Yep, I'm with you on that too. Well, I feel like
Justice.
I feel like we're coming right upon the hour mark, and we're talking about making shorter episodes, and we covered everything that we had planned on talking here tonight. So
Yeah.
I think that is great.
I'm gonna put my mask on now.
Right.
You'll never
Oh,
know who I am.
two masks.
We all wear masks.
This is
That
my
was
true
a
face.
reference from The Mask, where like he goes to the psychiatrist or therapist, whatever it is, and it's played by Ben Stein. He's like, "We all wear masks, metaphorically speaking," and he puts that mask on. Well, he doesn't. What if Ben Stein's character would have put the mask on? That would have been great.
Well, Ben Stein's personality amplified, he would just be extra boring.
Clear Eyes is awesome.
Yeah. Draw it
That whole
on.
Clear Eyes commercial.
I know. I
Oh,
know. That would be a waste of a mask though, you put it on Ben Stein.
yeah, he'd be the same thing exactly, but just with green skin.
Right.
Like
He'd
his
be like,
personality wouldn't have changed.
Bueller. Anybody? Anybody? I will say though, what's really sad, and this is completely off topic. All right, you got a fan.
Thank
got
you.
a fan. No, being a teacher, especially a teacher that I teach entirely virtually on Zoom, I've certainly had moments where I've asked questions, and I get that exact kind of feeling. Bueller, anybody? So I can certainly relate.
Yeah. All right. So
Yeah,
who knows what's going to happen next week? We don't really have anything particular in mind.
but I'm sure something will come up.
Oh yeah, we'll know within a couple of days. I'm still trying to. I need to send Eric Goins a message back because I know we were discussing at one point about him coming on.
Yeah,
And yeah, I'm gonna after the show. I'm gonna continue watching the documentary series. I just killed my dad. That's a good one.
it sounds really dark.
Yeah, it kind of is. And I made the joke on Facebook to somebody that commented. I was like, yeah, I thought it was interesting because my dad is dead. And I think I'm finally at that point where I can make jokes. Like I could say, like I could have a skeleton and be like, here's my dad. You know, some people have dark jokes like that, and people go,
Right.
how dare you? But it's like you get to a point where you're like, I can joke about things and it makes you feel. But no, like it did intrigue me because I did lose my dad. So I was like, how could somebody kill their dad? That's crazy. And so I watched it, and it's I don't know how many parts there are, but it is a episodic. It's like a docu series, and I'm like halfway through the second episode. I don't know if there's 3, 4, however many. It's very short. It's like a limited series. So
Okay, is
but
that
it's interesting.
Netflix or
It's Netflix, yeah.
it's Netflix? Okay, very cool.
Yeah. It's
What?
really interesting. And it's in 4K too, which is creepy because like the people are like, oh, I didn't think he would do that. Like crying with a tissue in their hand, like all 4K. And I'm just like, that's so creepy. I don't know. It's pretty good quality though. It's probably the best 4K quality I've seen in a documentary so far, which I haven't watched
Nice.
that many, but but it is a good one.
Yeah,
So Hollywood ravages everything, and Warner DC are gutless. They should have gone forward, been patient, and let Snyder grieve for his family, and then let Justice League up 2-parter. I think that would have been a great way to do it.
I agree because the whole Justice League movie, it's not finished. It is incomplete.
Yeah.
You know, so that would have been smart. So we finally get the end of this whole Dark Side saga. We know that Darkseid isn't just going to walk away after what the Justice League does.
And that was the problem with DC and Warner Brothers is, and I know Mark Guggenheim agreed with me on this, so world, I'm right. Mark Guggenheim knows his stuff. But no, I always felt that DC was rushing to race against Marvel. And that's where they messed up because Justice League was or should have been the Infinity War and Endgame of DC. because they had multiple heroes on a team fighting against some dark evils, and Darkseid would have been great, and they could have had him emerge near the end credit scene of the first part. The second part could have been all about fighting Darkseid and the whole apocalypse and like all that stuff. But plus Death of Superman and all this, there was just too much in that one movie. Too
I
much
agree.
stuff.
I really feel like, again, while you don't have to necessarily take a page out of the MCU playbook, it was really, really smart in the MCU that they gave all of these key players of the Avengers their own movies
Yeah.
to develop who they were. And that way, when you put them all together on one team, you didn't have to spend all that time going back and doing all the legwork of learning who they were before you even get into the action. But I've noticed in so many DC movies where they've got a mashup of people, you spend half of the movie going over their backstories. So
yeah, I mean, see, and Darkseid is literally the Thanos of DC, and that's what I'm saying. Like, that was their first big movie. I mean, I know you had Batman versus, well, you had Superman, and that, Superman, Man of Steel. That was like the first, the Iron Man of their universe, and then we didn't have a Batman. We didn't get a Superman 2. We just went straight to Batman versus Superman. So it would have been nice to have a solo Batman and then Batman versus Superman. But then Batman versus Superman had too much going on too. You had Batman and Superman. It's like, Martha, Martha, Martha. And then you had to have Wonder Woman as part of that. Like, why? It just...
The idea that you would go, the Batman versus Superman by itself was enough.
Yeah.
That you then had to go and include Doomsday in it. That would be another story altogether. And then they had to go and throw, you're right. What in the hell was Wonder Woman doing in that movie?
She didn't even need to be there at all.
Right. Now, again, I love Gal Gadot, and she's a fantastic Wonder Woman, but it was totally out of left field, and she did upstage Batman and Superman in their own movie. So,
and I think that's why a lot of people didn't like Ben Affleck, because he didn't really get much time as Batman. He was in that one movie, well, 2 movies, I guess, but he was overshadowed by Wonder Woman from the beginning.
Yeah.
But anyway, maybe we'll talk about that. Maybe we'll break down. Well, I don't want to talk about a whole movie of like, we hate this, but maybe talk more about like the DC extended universe, because we haven't really took a lot of time to really sit and talk about that too much.
Yeah, we can absolutely do that. So yeah, if you guys are watching and you haven't already subscribed, hit that subscribe button. And hey, hopefully you guys go out and enjoy some Halloween fun tomorrow. So
yeah, and I'm excited to get this mask off.
I bet.
It's not that I can't breathe. It does fit kind of tight around the neck. It's not like choking me, but my head is just like, and then it's just the sweat of like the cheeks where it like hugs real tight, and I'm starting to itch in some places, and I can't scratch it. So this must be what it feels like if you break your head and have a cast on it.
So, right. You can just imagine Batman, out patrolling the streets of Gotham. He's like, I just want to get back to the Batcave and get this thing off.
Yeah. It would be great. My nose itches. And also, I know I posted in our group and on Twitter earlier, but another thing I wanted to talk about really quick is kind of my second YouTube thing that I'm doing with my uncle and some of our friends. And I'm going to show our little logo that we have going on right now. We're the Council of Nerdy Gentlemen. And I kind of threw together this image of us as old school, like, it's actually pictures of like Thomas Jefferson and like George Jetson, George Washington, those kinds of guys. And the idea is like, we're just a bunch of, it's kind of like what we're doing. We just talk about stuff, but we're trying different things on there. And I made a new video series for the first episode coming out today. That's on our YouTube page right now on that channel. And it's Cooking with Vengeance.
Okay.
And I microwave a pizza. That's literally it. But it's just a funny like humor of like, I'm here to tell you how to cook a pizza. So go check that out too if you haven't already. I don't have a link, but it's just the Council of Nerdy Gentlemen, and it'll look like this. And we're starting to build more content on there. We're gonna get rich one day and like be a comedy channel. I don't know, who knows. I'm gonna have like 14 jobs. I'm gonna do this show, I'm gonna do those shows, and I'm gonna do Saturday Night Live. I don't know.
Oh, there you go. No, I don't think of this as a job.
No, it's fun.
Yeah.
For sure. But yeah, it's time for me to go get this off, and Robin is going to give me a sponge bath.
Well, enjoy.
Alfred is not. Alfred is off on Sundays, so he's not here. But hopefully,
doesn't that figure?
Yeah, I hope Robin. Like Robin's been giving these weird looks lately. Like he's smiling at me a lot, and I'm just like, I had to get rid of the poles. No, he just used the stairs to go down to the back cave. It's just weird. He can't be alone with me. I don't trust him.
All right. Well, this just got awkward.
Yeah,
that's probably a good time to sign off. But hey, it's been fun.
It really has. And maybe I should be Batman more often.
Right. We'll see if you keep the cowl for next week.
Yeah, we'll see. I might not. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
All right.
Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll catch you next week.